As we go farther back with this process, we will start to identify micro little refinements that need to be done, because a lot of things can be hidden here. Hey guys, Paul with Achilles Heel Tactical here. We're gonna go over a drill that's definitely helped me in my progression and develop as a shooter, right? This drill is traditionally derived from Ben Stoker's doubles drill, and we like to break it apart into 3 little different nuances that I feel help you really process the information that's going on with the gun to make us a more aware shooter, because that's what we really need to figure out, right? The awareness level of shooting is how we're gonna make those corrections, understanding how to develop really refined visual connection to a small spot, having the discipline and cultivating the discipline to maintain that small spot throughout the shot string, regardless of how aggressive we're shooting, and then also being able to solidify a good, secure, durable grip that maintains consistency throughout the shot string, once again, regardless as aggressive we shoot. So I'll walk you through this drill and hopefully it helps you out. So a big portion of my curriculum, what I like to introduce and what's been passed on to me from guys like Nick Young and Ben Stoker, is developing an awareness in what is actually going on with your shooting, right? A lot of people can get to a certain level and not actually understand how they're cultivating that. So when I get new shooters or any shooters, I try to instill upon them of developing an awareness, right? A big part of what's happening with shooting really comes down to 2 things. It's gonna be your visual connection to the target and having the discipline to maintain that throughout the shot string. You know, how aggressive you're shooting or unaggressive, right? It's still important that we're maintaining that small spot, and we'll get into why that's important. And then also we're trying to minimize the amount of tension and disruption in the gun, and what that looks like is pressure changes. So as I'm shooting aggressively, I need to make sure that that grip stays durable and consistent and the same throughout the entire shot string, which will make the gun act in a predictable manner. That is what we're questing for. We're not looking for the gun to be super flat. If that happens, that's great. Don't really care. I need to act in a very predictable manner. If it acts in a predictable manner, I'm able to predict how it's going to react, which will allow me to shoot more aggressive and maintain accountability. So the first thing I like to do is I like to just do it dry, all right? The biggest problem that I see with most shooters is when they go to shoot aggressive, they've never really pushed themselves, especially we see this in law enforcement, right? They train with absorbent amounts of time, loose standards, and then they find themselves in a critical instance that's very fast and aggressive, and they never actually press the trigger very aggressively, so they don't understand and have the awareness and the grip work solidified where they can actually do that and be successful. So right off the bat, regardless if you're a new shooter or a shooter guy's been shooting for a while, I want you to desensitize yourself to smashing that trigger really hard, right? There's definitely different ways to press the trigger, and that gets into execution mode when we're trying to be successful on more difficult targets. But when I'm looking to isolate and develop my grip, I want to press that trigger in the most obnoxious manner as possible, because that's going to test my grip the most. So right off the bat, I'm going to start like this. I'm going to put my trigger finger outside the gun, and the gun is dry right now, right? And I'm going to come from the outside of the gun, and I'm just going to smash into the trigger really aggressive, right? This is going to be my most egregious trigger press, but also very realistic for law enforcement. A lot of times you'll find yourself where you have, say, a high-risk stop, and you have your guns pointed at a suspect, and your trigger finger would be outside on the frame like this. And then if it does turn where use of force needs to be used, you would slam in, right? If that was required or necessary for that level of engagement. So we do need to be aware on how to be able to press the trigger that aggressive and then be able to stay accountable. Also, regardless of that, if we're just taking real world out of it, it's also a really great way to test our grip, all right? So this will be really testing me. Am I able to press this trigger in the most obnoxious manner and not disrupt the sights, all right? The key here, what I'm looking to do is make sure that I can press this trigger aggressive and not let my body subconsciously react to that aggressive trigger press by trying to adjust any pressures in my grip. All right, so I'll take a couple like this. The gun is empty. I'll present, I'll aim in, and I'll just smash the trigger like that, right? What I'm paying attention to is exactly what that dot is doing, right? That dot will wobble a little bit, but it shouldn't really be moving off that black paster. If you see, we have a black paster as a reference mark, and we'll talk a little bit more why we have that. But right now, I just want you placing a dot, your red dot or your iron sights, if you have that, on that black paster, and then press the trigger aggressively and just be aware of what it does, all right? Pay a little bit of awareness of, hey, what's happening in my grip? If I start to see big inputs, say like this will be incorrect, if I start to press the trigger with my entire hand, right? If you see the gun just dips like that, that was because as I pressed the trigger, I sympathetically felt stressed and I clenched up the other fingers in my hand with my entire shooting hand. So I pressed the trigger with my entire hand, changing the way the gun reacts, all right? So I need to desensitize myself to pressing that trigger really aggressively and not letting these fingers get into the fight. All right, so I'll do that a couple rounds here. We'll do this in a class to get guys used to it, and we'll present out, we'll bleed off any tension or energy that we have in our body, and we'll just smash in. Okay, so we'll do that a little bit, and then we're gonna go live. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna load the gun, and what we're looking for on top of not pushing the gun around is how that gun rises and falls, right? As I press that trigger, am I changing pressures to push that gun off to the left, off to the right? Am I healing it? Am I changing structures? Am I wrist braking? All these different little things that can affect the gun, right? What we're trying to do is whatever we start with, maintain throughout the shot string. All right, so ears on here. We're looking to keep a really nice tight rat hole, all right, on that. If you make a mistake, think about it, right? As you're going through those iterations, this doesn't have to be done so fast, right? If it takes you a little bit to process what happened, then think about, hey man, why did that round go there, right? I actually did a dumb one right here, and I just did a nice big pressure change, right? And I dumped it. I felt it, I was aware of it. I'm human, this is life, all right? So now we're gonna continue to test and make sure that I'm understanding how to press this trigger. Now I'm gonna come back into the trigger guard. I'm not gonna go out to the side of the gun because I'm going to do these 50-50 drills, right? So what this is basically a little variation of Ben's doubles drill. And what I find that this does a really good job, since you're not shooting 2 rounds, although you're gonna press the trigger twice very aggressively, you will be more likely to see the negative input that you're putting into the gun. Or you'll see exactly that the dot rises and falls right back to that plaque paster, and that is a correct behavior, and we're gonna validate that that is a good grip solidifying the gun. Keep in mind that we need, if we want the gun to return back to a specific shot, we need to be looking at it, right? And making sure we have a very refined, tight connection to that black paster. I don't want to get distracted by the dot whatsoever and follow it up, because that will make the gun not return back to where I want the gun. And you will see that when we start doing the actual doubles. If I make that mistake, it'll print. All right, so I'll do the 50-50s right now. So I'll have one in the chamber, and I'll have no magazine in it, and I'm gonna press the trigger from inside the trigger guard, but very aggressively, right? And then I'm gonna pay attention to what I see. If I see some crap, I'll let you guys know. All right, that looked good, but I was a little bit slow on that trigger press, so I'm gonna pick that up a little bit more. Good. That one was slightly on the bottom of the paster, so I need to clean that up. There was a little bit of tension in there. That was good. That was good. Do one more. That was good. All right, so now, once we get a feel for that, and the dot is returning cleanly back to what we're staring at, which is, for this drill, the black paster, we're gonna then load up, and we're gonna shoot 2 rounds, not changing anything. And with the 50-50s there, we should have all the information that we need to be successful in this. It'll look like this. All right, nice, good little rat hole there, right? That was perfect execution at whatever this is, 4 or 5 yards, all right? We need to continue this process going further and further back. As we go farther back with this process, we will start to identify micro little refinements that need to be done, because a lot of things can be hidden here and will show up at 25 yards. So we'll take a step back and we'll go to 10. So I'll go right back to the 50-50s. I'm doing, this is training, guys, right? This is not a test. So I'm doing the 50-50s to give myself an opportunity to get rid of any bullshit that I can see before I start pressing the rounds and wasted ammo, right? So I'll come on out and I'll do the exact same thing. That looked pretty good. The return was good. On the initial trigger press, I pressure changed a little bit, would push that one outside of the group there a little bit. All right, now we're gonna go into those doubles, right? Taking that information that I just learned and seeing if I can do it now with 2 rounds. All right, let's go down here and look at this. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, right? This was one from the 50/50s right here. This is me just being a little bit sloppy on my vision and having a slight pressure change, right? So I don't want to look at that and say, hey, I'm going to slow down. Nope, I don't want to slow down. That's not going to help me. What I need to do is do it correctly, right? So although we fixed it on the fly, we will do it for you guys live so you can see what I do in the corrections, none of which will be slowing down. All right, so clean that up a little bit, and now we got a little bit better result. Still a nice little fist-sized group there. All right, we're gonna work this even farther back. All right, we'll go back to 15. At 15, this is going to become really visually demanding that I stay very precise on my visual connection to that target, or the rounds are going to show. All right. Once again, I'm not really going to try to dial down my speed at all. So go back to the 50/50s. Good. Look good. That was way too slow of a trigger press, right? That did not keep me in the predictive realm. That kept me in a reaction realm. That gun settled, and then I pressed the trigger. So I absolutely learned nothing from that rep. Okay, good. Now we'll validate it with doubles. All right, let's go down there and look at, I had a little bit of spreading. Not horrible, but really not great work. We're still looking for a good fist-sized group around here. Yeah, we're still accountable to the A zone, but if that's a good start, right? If you're having troubles being able to shoot, around 20 splits at the 15-yard line and holding the A zone, yes, start there. But as we further refine the fundamentals, this is totally doable to keep a nice fist-sized group, right? So we're just gonna go fast forward back. We would work this all the way back, figuring out little nuances, go right back to 25 yards. So this is going to be extremely demanding. Any micro pressure change or visual disconnect from that small spot, I'm going to pay heavily. All right. So I'll do my best, and I'll walk you through what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling, and what corrections need to be made to be successful. So I'll go right back to those 50/50s again, trying to set myself up for success. And I'll do a couple of them and just get a feel for how that gun's reacting on that target. All right, that was okay. I wasn't in love with it. It was a little bit sloppy. There was some slight pressure changes there. So clean that up. That was good. That was good. That was good. All right, so now we're gonna get into the doubles. Oh, that's a Charlie. All right, let's go down and look at it. So I definitely got a Charlie down there. Took a couple Charlies here, right? Ultimately, what we're questing for is we're questing for A zones, right? But these slight little pressure changes and visual discipline issues are going to yield these types of results, right? So we'll get rid of these Charlies, and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try to clean that up, because this is what training looks like. So the corrections that I'm telling myself is to maintain visual connection to a small spot, regardless of what that gun's doing. The dot is obviously traveling a large portion of that target, and I need to have the discipline to look past it and still press the trigger aggressively without letting anything change within the structure. All right, definitely got, I think, 2 Charlies on there, but let's go look at it, because this is fucking life. So 2 small ones, but it definitely, from the feedback, I saw that, right? They're right on the line here. So we had everything taped up outside of the A zone. So I got 2 little line breakers here and I got 1 here, right? And what that was for me and what I felt and saw from the gun was a little bit of firing hand control tension that just kind of creeped in. And any little bit of change from this firing hand is going to start deviating those sights. At 25 yards at that level of aggression, that is a very small amount. Nonetheless, it is an incorrect behavior and I need to work on that and make sure that I eradicate that behavior from my shooting, right? Full well knowing that if I just press the trigger a little bit different, that'll have a better result. But that's not going to assist me in developing my visual connection to the target and also really figuring out what my grip looks like. All right, guys, so we just got through a couple courses of fire there, focusing on a couple key specific things that I have found very valuable to me that has been passed down to me through guys like Ben Stoker and Nick Young. These are critical components when you're trying to develop yourself as a shooter, to develop awareness, which will lead you to success. Shooting without an awareness, you will be lost and you will continue to shoot and you'll be shooting for effect and not really understanding how to make that correction. A lot of times when you do that, you'll do stuff just correct enough to get a couple good runs, and that's just enough to confuse you to think you're on the right path. You need to separate yourself from the actual product that's on the target and encapsulate those core principles that we covered and pay attention to them and slowly refine that. As you continue to go back, it'll obviously get more difficult, but it's the same exact process from 5 to 25 and on. We just have to be a little bit cleaner and more refined, right? So the ultimate goal is to maintain a really nice sized group all the way back. I'd like to say at least alphas at 25 yards. Do not self-induce better results by dialing down your shooting. One thing I'd also like to add is you notice that I didn't draw from the holster, right? I do this specifically in my class because a lot of times people are unaware of these principles and how we develop awareness. By adding the draw stroke right off the bat, that leaves a lot of variables that can go wrong and make people have inconsistent grips and not exactly, basically it prolongs the process of them figuring out what right looks like. So as I go through this whole process here without drawing, once I figure it out what right looks like, then I add the draw stroke back in and I will execute it with the draw stroke, learning how to bleed off that tension before I start shooting. But I'm a firm believer in you doing it without the draw stroke first, so you know exactly what right looks like. This way, when you draw, we know what we're trying to produce before we start shooting. Hopefully this drill helps you. If you guys like this, stay subscribed or subscribe if you're not subscribed, and we'll be putting out more content with drills like this that I found help me in my journey, and I know it'll help you.